welcome to Conversations with me, your host Sarahina Mayoyo, where we talk all things women, to empower, to educate, and to challenge one another. The most difficult question to answer for anyone is, who are you? Especially for us women, because we've been defined by so many things: society, tradition, and even religion.
The soul is who you are. Your mind and body are what you use to experience who you are. By Neil Donald Walsh.
Sure, that quote just blew me away because it actually says that our identity is within, not in the casing outside. And this is more important for women because we look at our outside a lot to actually define ourselves. Today, my co-host and I are going to flip the script, where we actually as women own our own identity and we don't allow anybody else to define us. So stay tuned. Hello, Matseho, and welcome back to Chatting with Sarahina. Yet again, it's awesome to have you. Can you just tell us a bit about you?
Yes, thank you very much, Sarahina. My name is Matseho Njumbuka, and I am a very good friend of Sarahina. I'm a mother. I'm a all things woman, and especially, most importantly, I'm a child of God. And I'm actually looking forward to another insightful chat with Sarahina.
Yep.
Yes.
And we're talking about identity.
Oh, goodness.
Yay.
Yes.
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 I want to ask you a question before we continue.
Okay.
How easy do you find it to answer the question, who are you?
Shucks, it's difficult. It is so difficult, especially, when you go to an interview and they say, tell us a bit about yourself. And my thing is, with that particular regard, is that you don't really know who you are. The people that spend time with you are the ones that know who you are. So people can say, no, she's a patient person, she's impatient, or she's nasty, or whatever. So I struggle with that, and I struggle with actually even, telling people good traits about myself, or even bad traits. I struggle.
Okay.
Generally, I struggle to answer your question.
Now, if I were to force you now to say
Oh,
that you
Jesus.
you can't say no.
Okay.
You have to give me, and one word, who are you?
I'd say the first thing I identify with is being a child of God.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
If I were to describe it in one word,
Yeah.
I'm a child of God. I
Wow.
believe everything else that makes me stems from me being a child of God.
That's actually amazing.
Okay.
The reason why is because my experience with this question, because I always ask this question, and I think as a coach, for me, it always intrigues me to start with this question and find where people are.
Mm-hmm.
And the most natural answers that come from people is, who are you? I'm a mother. Who are you? I'm a wife. I'm a CEO.
I actually used to be like that.
Yeah, I'm a this, I'm a that. And it's easy to do that. I'm a life coach. I'm an author, But then I would now throw a spanner in and actually go further with another question to say, if this happens, and God forbid, if I lose my child and my child dies, and I've been saying my
I'm a
identity is being a mother, who am I when my child is no longer there? If I identify myself as I'm a wife, when that man decides, Ukuti,
This is enough for him.
child, who am I then? Because I'm no longer a wife, you
Yeah.
know? So we've actually made it a habit to identify ourselves with our roles.
True.
We identify ourselves with the roles that we play, but the problem is we suffer nervous breakdowns when the roles end.
Yeah.
And roles can end,
They
because
They
we are
do.
on earth. So when roles end, then we suffer nervous breakdowns because who am I then if I'm not married to this
My
man?
goodness.
Who am I if I'm not a mother to these children? Who am I if I'm not a CEO
Sure.
of a particular company?
Yeah. So it's the externals that make
Thank you.
people and listen, I can completely understand because I've
And
been
relate. Yeah.
there. I've been there, and I think for me the breaking point, or when it became touch and go, is actually when I had to break my marriage.
Yeah.
For me then, it stopped being about.
Sure.
Because even at that point, I even felt like I wasn't even being the best mother to these kids.
Yeah.
Because now I got to a point where I had to choose myself,
Sure.
my happiness, my sanity. And I knew it's going to have a ripple effect over everything else around me. But I decided. And it actually goes back to the moment where I realized that God's love for me
Wow.
was powerful enough and strong enough to actually go through even this process. And if he had to forgive me for whatever it is that I was deciding to do, that's when for me I was like, wait a minute, that's who I am.
Sure.
That is who I am. Romans 8.
That is huge. That
Yeah.
that was a mouthful,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
And I think you actually touched on our quote today that
Mhm.
says your soul is who you are.
Mm.
Your mind and your body are the casing that you
your soul.
experience your
Mm.
identity through.
Sure.
And this is funny because as women, we focus a lot on our external.
Mm.
You know, our identity is so closely linked to our external, identity, you know, how I look, how I present myself, you know, how I want people to perceive me. And what people perceive is the external. But this is only a casing of the real thing. An example is that a man will get married to a woman because of the casing. Most of the time, or the biggest part is, you know, the casing looks good. It's a Coke
And
bottle.
they say they're visual creatures.
It's
so
a Coke bottle shape. And they get married to this beautiful creature of God. Then 2 months, 2 years down the line, you meet that man is like, I don't know what that demon, that demon that I'm with in that house. And I want a divorce, right? Now, what happened? Did the person change? Or perhaps, did you now discover what was inside the casing? And all of a sudden now you find the person's true identity that has been hidden nicely with a beautiful casing. And I mean, I speak about this not from a judgmental point.
Yeah, of course.
I talk about it from experience because I once was a beautiful casing that had rotten goods on the inside. So, you know, I think now as women, also we need to want to understand and know our identity, not for somebody else, not for a man to find a good wife in me, not for a child to find a good mother in me, but for me to know
For
who is
yourself.
this beautiful
Because that's a
person.
constant.
Yeah,
That's a constant, but Sarahina, it's tough. God, it's tough. It's tough. You have to go through some things to get to a point. Like, for instance, same applies to you.
Yeah.
You went through some things in order
Hell.
for you to one day realize
Let's give
who
it
you
one
were.
name. Let's give it
Hell.
one word. Hell. I went
Yes.
through hell.
Do we have to go through hell for us to know our identity? Is there someone out there who can say, listen, I'm 10 years old and I actually know my identity?
No, I think also identity, and I think I'd like for us, after, you know, we've gone to the break, to go to this part where we talk about, is identity fully recognized when we are born? Or are there factors that as we grow up, as we go along the way, that come and influence and enhance that identity? So is it fully, you know, effective when we're born, when we are children? Or as we grow older, the factors that come in actually, you know, beautify
Yeah.
it. You
Yeah.
know, like gold or a diamond.
Yeah.
You know, the fires come and beautify a thing that was already there. So I'd like us to go there. You know, we need to take a quick ad break, so stay tuned. I want to encourage every woman to own their story. And when I say own their story, I mean everything. The good, the ugly, the bad. Also the stretch marks, the glow, and everything in between. So let's chat on Chatting with Sarahina. This show is about connecting you to your journey to validate your walk. Also, what it's about is a non-judgmental space where women can come together and speak about their issues. It also is for every woman. And when I say every woman, I mean all of us. So join us so that we can listen to each other's stories and actually help one another. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. So before the break, we were talking about our identity and where it emanates from. And we realized that, you know, our identity is not what people see on the outside. It's actually what's inside.
Yeah.
This thing outside here, this body, is a casing of this identity.
True.
And I think for women it's very important because we've focused a lot on our exterior,
Yeah.
which is actually just a wrapping paper. But you know, the real thing, the makoya, is inside the wrapping paper,
True.
right?
True, definitely. And as much as I think it's something that goes both ways, actually, not the show is for women,
Yeah.
but it's something that happens for
Most
men
definitely.
as well, because you were saying men will look at the exterior, but it's something that women do as well. They will look at the exterior of a man, but as you and I think this is going to speak profoundly to what we're talking about. As you get to know yourself, you get to know what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah.
What was important to you in a relationship when you were 21 is not what's important when you're 31,
Wow.
because of the experiences, because of what you went through, and because of who you are to yourself right now, because
Growth.
of growth. And
Yeah.
and I think it's then your identity that forces you to be authentic in
Exactly.
even your pursuit of friendship, of relationships, of your experiences, you know.
And I think, you know, what you're saying is so important because I think we sort of we judge ourselves harshly.
You think?
We judge ourselves harshly because we don't realize that it's a journey. So yes, at age 20, that's what I liked, and what informed what I liked was my experience of 20 years. But at age 40, what speaks to, you know, what I like then is my 40-year experience, right? So I think it's very important for us to understand that identity actually is evolving.
Yeah, it evolves.
It evolves because identity also, I think, as much as it evolves, it adapts to time.
Okay.
It adapts to time because if you were born in the 70s, your identity in the 70s identified with the environment of the 70s. Black people couldn't do this. You know, there were so many socio-economic issues and all of that. So your identity had a limitation to it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all you could be in your fullest potential.
Yeah.
But because of the limitation of the environment. 2020, I mean, opportunities everywhere. Women now don't need to be making fires outside,
You know?
to make umngqusho, which is samp and beans.
Yeah.
But now women can actually get into the car and go to a boardroom. So now your identity sort of adapts
To the
to
environment.
the environment and the time. So we need to also be gentle with ourselves
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
judge,
Yeah.
you know, our identity and think that we've got multiple personalities. But we evolve with time.
But on that personality front, I don't think it's a matter of because now your identity has evolved.
Yeah.
You change as a person. Do you get what I'm saying?
Of
I think
course.
if you were always a sweet, kind person, that will always be there.
Yeah.
You know, as foundational.
Yeah.
But then you build up, as you're saying, when you were 21, you had that 21-year-old
21 year,
experience.
yeah.
You know, as a 31 kind and gentle person,
Still.
now there's layers that have added on.
Wow. So now you are actually breaking it down to say that it's perhaps the personality that that evolves, but
With
the
the
identity
environment remains.
stays the same. That's huge because then your attitude towards things, your character may evolve, but that sweet, kind person remains there, which is why that quote says that your soul is your identity. Your mind and your body are the tools that, you know, allow you to experience it.
Yeah.
So your personality is where you experience your identity. Your attitude is where you express your identity, but identity stays there. Which then for me brings us to what we wanted to talk about now, to say that is identity then fully formed when you are born?
Sure. Wow. Do you know, I think it's always there. It's a matter of
After what
discovering
we've
it.
just said,
I think it's a matter of discovering it.
wow, I think you actually literally step into it when you're born.
Yes. You
And it's
step
full
into it.
when it's there.
Mhm.
But doesn't that take us to Jeremiah 1? Before before I formed
I
you,
formed you,
I knew
you.
He doesn't say I knew a part of you. He says
I
I knew
you.
a
So
full
you were always
person.
there.
Wow. So when you are born and when you come into the spectrum of Earth, you enter into a full human being. But now all these factors, the environment,
around
the
you.
changes, they come to enhance what you stepped into.
They come to enhance, or they come to take away what you've
There's
stepped
the
into.
negative.
There's definitely a negative. There's definitely a negative, and unfortunately, there's always a negative. You
The yin and yang.
there's definitely always a negative, and I
Yeah.
think the negative is part of the formation, and it's part of the process.
Of course.
You have to go through those negative.
Those factors.
Those negative factors, to actually even discover
Yeah.
how much you can actually take as
yeah.
and I'm saying actually a lot.
As a person. I
As a
love
person.
that. That's beautiful, because then we are expanding also, which is what we want on this show, to expand on all these topics
Yeah,
that are crucial for women to talk about.
yeah.
Can I throw a spanner?
Throw a spanner.
Let's talk about marriage. And let's talk about, as women, how sometimes we we adopt our husbands' identities.
Goodness,
All of a sudden now you can never call me Sarahina anymore. It's
Mrs.
no,
Yo-Yo.
Mr. Mayoyo's wife. Right? Now I don't have an identity anymore. I'm this man's wife. Everything about me is attached to
Is
this man. That's like being a parasite.
I don't. Do you know that's a tricky one? That's a tricky one, and I think it's something that people need to even learn before they get into marriage, because once you get into marriage, we are taught that you have to. You obviously have to. Your household or your marriage has to. That's all. You have to. You're the anchor, if I may put it.
Yeah.
You are the anchor of your marriage. Ne?
And when you get married, it's 1 + 1 = 1.
There's now we're getting to with us discovering our identities and us getting to know who we are. We're getting to a point where we realize that me being me fully takes nothing away from my marriage.
Okay.
Me being me fully actually edifies to my marriage, because now we are so caught up in what's expected of us and what we're expected to do.
And that's the part I wanted us to talk about, the fact that we were expected. We are expected, and we actually fall for what is expected
We do,
of us.
because that's
So
all we know.
I want us to elaborate on that. Let's take a break, and we'll see you just now. Welcome back, and you are still watching Chatting with Sarahina. Before the break, Matseho and I were talking about identity, and we actually opened a can when we spoke about marriage and how, as women, sometimes we lose our identity
in marriage.
in marriage. But do we really lose it, or does it actually show us and expose that we never knew our identity
in the
before
first
we
place
went into marriage,
We
which is a
nev-
huge thing. A huge thing,
we did not know. You cannot lose what you found. You cannot lose what you have.
what you have.
You cannot lose what you have.
And I think more than that, you can't lose who you are.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And unfortunately, you have to go through a whole lifetime of a marriage in order for you to realize
True.
that. In order for you to realize that, because once you lose yourself, if you lose yourself, what exactly do you have?
I mean, it's like you don't have an existence. You're just breathing through life, but you don't have an existence. And I think, for our young girls most especially, this is more important, because then it speaks to, how crucial it is for women to be taught at a very young age that the biggest treasure is your identity.
Yeah.
Is knowing who you are, because then knowing who you are connects you to why you are here.
To your
So
purpose.
it connects you to the purpose God has put you on this earth for. And, we grow up in a culture where marriage is made out to be the goalpost. And as a result, when kids, little girls are growing up, they are, I have made it position or point is getting married.
It's marriage.
So we actually, we don't focus on figuring ourselves out, but we focus on, I must be a good wife. So I must learn to be a good wife. I must learn to do this. I must learn to be a good mother. But we don't focus on the source of all these
who
good
you
traits.
are.
The source of being a good wife is you figuring yourself out so that when you go into marriage, you also make a decision and choose somebody who aligns with your identity.
Sure. That is amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, if you look at society right now, with feminism
Yeah.
and the need for women's voices to be heard,
Mm-hmm.
and how it could easily get out of hand,
Yeah.
and how it actually seems like it's getting out of hand.
Yeah.
Women are at a point where, because they want to prove that they understand their identity and they have their identity, they are so dead set on trampling anything else that might seem like it's opposed to that. As a result, marriage has a bad name in the feminism aspect of life, because people feel like automatically when you get into marriage, you will lose your identity, not
Yes.
knowing that you actually never even had your identity or understood your identity
the
before you
first
got
place.
into marriage.
So we can't blame marriage.
Now it's exactly, we can never blame
Yeah.
marriage. Now people are dead set on not even
Yeah.
discouraging our little girls, because people now are saying marriage is not the, like the popular saying, marriage is not the
yeah.
goal. Marriage is not the goal.
Of which we shouldn't make it a goal, but we should allow it to be a natural point in our journeys, just like anything else. Just like, going through puberty. Nobody says, rallies up a person to say that, oh, you're going to go through puberty. Look, prepare for. It becomes a natural part of life. Just like graduating from school becomes a natural part of growing.
Yeah.
So marriage is a natural part of growing as well
True.
when it happens to you. But we shouldn't, highlight it as the purpose of being
Yeah.
a woman.
Yeah.
We should allow, and teach women to understand their identity so that they understand their purpose, so that even a wife, a married woman, can live a full purpose as a wife.
Yes.
Even
Yes,
in her marriage, right?
And when you understand and you're living fully in it, you're able to give fully around you,
And
and not feel like something is being taken away
taken
from
away
you.
from you.
Mm.
And the other part I don't want us to do is to blame husbands, because we do that sometimes.
Yeah, we do.
We're like, he is so overpowering, not actually fully knowing that this woman actually is downplaying themselves and actually hiding behind the door because they're not confident enough to actually stand tall in their own identity. So the woman is always following what the husband is doing. If are we wearing green today? The wife waits until the husband puts that thing, what is that, handkerchief in so that she knows
She
what
can
color
wear-
to wear.
she can wear-
And then when we look at it outside, we're like, oh, he is so controlling. But we don't understand or know what is happening in there. Ukuthi perhaps this woman is suffering from a point where she doesn't know her own identity, or she's not confident in living her identity.
Do you know something is coming to me now? And it's like we're just saying, often it's women who lose their identity in marriage. Why is that? Does it mean men automatically understand their identity or automatically know who they are? Why do the roles shift in that manner?
Sure, that one is a tricky one because I don't think there aren't men who struggle
With their identity.
I don't think there are men who don't go through identity crisis.
Yeah.
But I think also then it speaks to our demeanors as different
human beings.
creatures, as different creatures, human beings, because men are naturally dominant, right? And women have a natural submission about them.
Yeah.
Even if we fight it now as in feminisms and all of that, we try and fight this submission because we don't understand what submission really means.
Yes.
But there's a natural thing about us and submission. So I think then two people can get married not knowing their identities together, but the man will rather succeed in the fake identity and be dominant in it because
by
naturally
nature
he is
he's
dominant.
yes.
And the woman will sort of follow because she's naturally submissive, right?
Okay.
But also I don't want us to make this as if it's a let's just throw stones to women. Let's just throw rocks to women. We need to understand the background and where this comes from.
Okay.
We need to look back at where we come from as well as a people and as women. And now we are talking only just as the generations we know, right? Because we can't speak for our, grandmothers and all of that. But from our grandmothers, this has always been the case. With our great-grandmothers and grandmothers, their identities were defined
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
The husband, the man, goes to, I'll speak, for where I come from, the Eastern Cape. The men leave the house to go to Johannesburg, to go work the mines, so that they can feed their families. The wife stays at home. She raises those children. That is it, And then when we are brought up in our homes as little girls and boys, little girls will be bought, what is this? Dolls. And
Cars.
pots and utensils and ironing boards and stuff. And boys will be bought cars and, all these things. And we don't realize that in that, an identity is,
it's being formed.
is introduced, right? Indirectly so, but it's being introduced. And the girl child knows that, okay, my place is in the pink
kitchen.
and the white, and the kitchen and the baby stroller and the baby. And a boy child grows up, with an identity that says, okay, mine is to drive a sports car and to be with the boys and to, have my gun. And if I don't have a gun, I must have something in my hand that is powerful. So if it's a car key or a wallet, but it must be big and powerful, And identities are forming.
Yeah.
And then we become grown people and we have those identities that come not because we chose them, but because they were introduced to us as we were growing up. Girls play in the house, boys go play in the streets and don't come back until it's late because you break things, right? So these things grow into us, and I'd like to hear from you now, your parting words and what you'd like to leave us with in terms of the identity part, because we really need to look into it and
Yes.
stop blaming people.
No, definitely. I think I want to reiterate what you said earlier on, that we just need to be kind to ourselves. Let's not be harsh to ourselves as women, because it's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen today, just because it happened for Sarahina years back and it happened for me last year, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen for you. You will get to a point where, or you will have an encounter that makes you come face to face with who you really are. It's something that will happen. If it means getting out of a marriage in order for you to understand, if it means you losing your child in order for you to understand that you're not only a mother, but you're more than that, it is going to happen. It might be painful when it does happen, but it will happen. God did not bring you on earth not to reveal to you who you really are.
Sure. Wow. Thank you so much. That was powerful. I don't have anything to add to that. So thank you so much for
That's the
joining us.
Thank you.
So who are you, woman? Because it's very important for you to know how to answer that question. Also for yourself more than anybody else. And also you can't go along your life defining yourself according to what people say about you, because people see the casing. And as we've heard today, the casing is only what houses the identity. Who you are is what you know on the inside. It's important for us as women to connect to our source. Well, my source is God, because He's the reason why I'm here. He says that He made me in His own image. So perhaps it is important for me to go and find out what image He is, so that I'm able to see my own image. But all good things have to come to an end, so that's the end of our show. Thank you so much for being part of our conversation, and we look forward to you joining us in our next episode. Same time, same place. Goodbye.